Welcome back to AutoKnerd. In today's episode, we're going to dive deep down the rabbit hole of EQ, emotional intelligence. EQ is a proven power in car sales. And in this particular episode, I'm going to show you the research-backed insights, real dealership wins, and strategies that are going to transform the way that you tackle the sales process from here going forward. Because when you start to hear some of the statistics that I'm going to tell you about enabling EQ and being able to really learn about it and take advantage of it, it's going to be one of those items that when it comes down to closing, as I said many times, closing's a myth. It's sold by charlatans to go ahead and have you buy classes. When it comes down to it, it's really in the connection that you make with that individual that determines whether they're actually going to go ahead and buy that car from you at a high profit or not. So, without further ado, let's get to some of these statistics in here. So, the statistics, when it comes to enabling EQ into this, again, emotional intelligence, sales professionals that have high EQ and also confidence achieve a 351% higher closing ratio than compared to their peers. That's insane. Now, can it be taught? Yes, it can absolutely be taught. The skills to go ahead and connect with somebody and recognize the position that they're in, right? It's called empathy. But, when Journal Marketing in 2021 found out, again, 351% higher in their sales performance when compared to their less emotionally tuned peers. Which means that a lot of us that are out there that are going ahead and touting, close all day long and grinding the sales consultants down, or we're just leading ourselves down a path of many. Well, we might be tackling this whole thing wrong. Check out this next statistic. Dealerships emphasizing EQ in the hiring jumped staff retention from 10% to 77%. Now, that's from Sterling McCall Auto Group. So, simply by going ahead and hiring with a focus on EQ, all of a sudden had higher retention, which means you have more sales consultants that connect with your individuals that are out there. And when you have more sales consultants that make connections, this means that you also drive profit up. Then also, in addition to that, companies investing in EQ training reduce employee turnover by, get this, 63%, and that's from Talent Smart study from 2021. So clearly EQ isn't this soft skill that's out there. It's rock solid gold. You see, when you understand emotional intelligence and you can start to pick up on people, you start to play with their cards on your field. And that's when the individual starts to trust you in very large ways. Quick little story here. Meet Chad. Chad is this high pressure, low EQ, pushy specs, kind of sales consultant, just this over caffeinated auctioneer of sorts, right? Just rattling off all this stuff all the time. And then you have Jess over here, right? This empathetic individual that actually wants to get in touch with the person on the other side of the table. And Jess might actively be asking the customer how you are feeling, checking in with them every so often, because Jess has acknowledged that this is a high anxiety situation for some people. So just by doing that, you're going to have an individual who makes connections with people because they're trying to make that connection. And when you attempt to make that connection with somebody, that's when people feel heard. That's when they want to be able to go to you and talk some more, be able to get your consolation on things. But on the other side of that, when you have somebody like Chad, none of us want to be around that. But yet so many of us work in an environment that forces us to be that way. Imagine if you change the narrative. Imagine if every other sales consultant on the showroom floor was going ahead and being a version of the Chad here. Whereas you took it upon yourself to be the version of Jess, somebody that slowed down, somebody that realized that conversation in the beginning is far more important than any other part of the road to the sale. So let's arm you with some practical strategies when it comes to EQ, because EQ is not easy for anybody at first, especially if you're, male walking this planet. Being in touch with your emotional side, at least here in the United States, has kind of been one of those things that's been like drummed out of us. And when you get it back and you could start to find those emotions and label those emotions that you see from other people, things start to change, and they change for the better, which is wonderful. But it's a time investment into potentially making some tweaks to your own personality. And for some of us that are out there, if you're kind of that type A narcissist, always have to be in control of things, um, this is going to be hard. This is going to be really hard. So let's start at the top here. Active listening. It doesn't mean that you're just hearing the individual that's in front of you. It means that you're putting in the effort to truly understand what the heck they're saying. Even though the customer may be going ahead and just throwing a bunch of stuff at you and it sounds like it's in the negative, listen to them. Actually hear the words that are coming out of their mouth. Because a lot of the times when you can hear the person's reflection and talk to them about why they are there for whatever reason and get them to tell their story, that story will start to calm them down because they're talking about themselves. But ultimately, it will also drive them to being able to say exactly why they need this vehicle, what put them in front of you today. And once you hear those reasons, that right there, that is the roadmap to the road to the sale, right? That roadmap to the road to the sale is always buried in the customer's life in some way. So being able to engage the ears, lock the brain on in and truly understand what that person's saying in front of you is huge, which again is why I tell you, I don't care if you're sitting there for 45 minutes for a needs assessment. Get that conversation rolling because it's going to give you all the tools to go ahead and sell them a car. Now, next one here. Emotional labeling. Emotional labeling is the act of understanding that that person is in a particular way, right? It's an explicit acknowledgement of the customer's emotions. You see their emotional state, and then you go ahead and you cater to it. Now, here's the funny thing about this. Studies have shown that this drastically and instantly boosts trust with the customer. Yeah. You understanding the state that they're in and catering to it. You don't need to go ahead and go, hey, buddy, you look really sad. You want to talk about your feelings? Not everybody's going to want to do that. But sometimes asking them about it, like, hey, you seem pretty anxious. Do you have any questions? I'm not here to get you. All I'm here to do is feed my family and pay my mortgage. And I don't know, if you end up giving me a big gross, that's cool too. But the deal is if I can get in touch with you and figure out how you're feeling and cater to that, now I can start to mold your future emotional state to a state of hopefully happiness. Also, next one here, regular role playing. I know for some of us, this is just like one of those like, oh my gosh, role playing. Really, Andy? Role playing has its place, and when I'm teaching live in front of people, it's not something that I really enjoy doing. And the reason that I don't enjoy doing it is because there's a lot of emotions that come up when you're outside of the role play, right? And it's not really easy to replicate those when you're in the role playing situation. So it's kind of tough. I'm big on learning by doing sometimes with some things, but simulate those tough scenarios that often come up in EQ responses. With this, it may be that you simply sit down with a buddy of yours at the dealership, or let's say your manager goes ahead and picks this up, and you sit down and you just mirror an emotion that you would have, right? So maybe you come on in, you're grumpy, you sit there and you're like, give me the price right now. Okay, well, let's role play this out a little bit so I can better counter this when I see it. Or you have somebody that's like super over the top, elated, happy. How do you mirror their emotional state to cater to that better? And it may not even be mirroring their emotional state, but it might be going ahead and maybe being slightly calmer to put that person in a better situation to speak. But the other side of this is also an ownership and management thing at the dealership, right? Because if we don't have the right people, there's no way that we can go ahead and forge down those trails of having a sales team that gives us the ability to boost EQ. You see, the acknowledgement of that individual's emotions is not something that is taught to every single individual that walks this planet. Now, I can be completely honest with you on this. I was not really fully taught that when I was younger. I was kind of a complete jerk for a very long time. But once I realized that other individuals are going through their own things, and I started looking at who exactly was on the sales floor at particular times, imagine if you were able to strategize for that. Imagine if you were able to go ahead and go, hey, listen, this person knows how to do this job really, really well. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that they're there at these particular times. This is going to help out with a couple of things. First off, it's going to reduce your onboarding time significantly. If you know who's coming on in and you have gone ahead and went through a hiring process that looks at things like EQ. If you have people that are emotionally intelligent on the show floor, that connection's made, and then all of a sudden your gross profits go up. I mean, seriously, imagine this. Imagine for 1 month, the first month that you hire everybody in, everybody's brand new, right? EQ is very high with the whole team, and then all of a sudden, sales drop the first month. But you're looking at your gross profits and you're going, wait, they're going up, right? They're going way up. So all you got to do is teach them to speed things along a little bit, not much. And once those connections, that pattern of connection with the sales consultant and the customer becomes something that the sales consultant is very comfortable with, now you are in a position where I can look at a sales consultant and say, hey, I need you to work in this particular individual because I know you're going to close them. Now we have more cars being sold because I have a team that knows what they're doing, that is emotionally intelligent, that can now make those connections, and now my cars have higher gross profits. Yeah, my email, I don't know if you know, is down below. Feel free to shoot me a text, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to go ahead and help you out. But here's the thing. With emotional intelligence, it is all based on the fact that we're locking in with that other person. And when we do, that other person is more than willing to acknowledge the fact that we're there to help, and they give us the cards to do so. And we know that this is treated like a poker game with a lot of people, right? You got the customer on one side of the table, and they're sitting there with all their cards, and then you have us on the other side of the table, and we don't have any cards to hold. And our job is to reduce the customer's anxieties to the point where they can start giving themselves permission to buy the car. Well, the only way that we can do that is recognizing how that anxiety is propagates and how to go ahead and reduce it. And this is where relationship building comes on in. In different genres of sales out there, though, EQ shines a little bit differently, and the relationships are a little bit different as well. Again, back to what I've been saying the whole time, the moral to this story is getting in touch with the customer. And once you do, you start to have trust built. So for example, business to business car sales, retail EQ delivers immediate empathy and trust. And that's the Marduk Group in 2021. Now, this is essential for rapid business decisions. So if that relationship is there in business to business sales, and the person says, hey, here's my problem, you immediately solve it. They know that you're reliable. Boom, you can go ahead and have that fleet of deals. Now, in addition to that, in fleet sales, EQ builds long-term relationships. And that's the point. Because with fleet, you need to keep that channel rolling. It's not just about, hey, you know what, I sold you a fleet of 20 cars. The local police department's happy now. It's, here, I sold you these 5. And then next year, you need 5 more. And then next year, you need 5. And that just keeps going. It's way more than 20 cars. And by doing this long-term relationship that will be built off things like you're emphasizing trust and reliability, especially in those critical moments when things are just not going well, right, for the person that buys them. If you can have them quick and you can always be the reliable person for them, all of a sudden that long-term relationship stays there forever. And then once you know who that individual is that you're working with for fleet sales or business to business or individual car sales, you can hit them back in the tone that they appreciate. Be able to have a conversation with them in a tone that they understand, with conversations that they get, right? Now, EQ isn't an optional thing though, right? It's fundamental across the board. It's something that when you go ahead and you take a look at how everybody connects with themselves, you know that when you sit down, for example, at like a bar, right? Sit down, you look at the person next to you, and you're just like, nah. You just kind of get the heebie-jeebies. And then, but you sit down next to another person, and all of a sudden you strike up a conversation, right? When all of a sudden you notice that person that you struck up a conversation with, you click. That click is what we're talking about. Where is that click with the customer? Do you have to dig for it? Because if you have to dig for it, that means that you have to go through the things that I was talking about. You got to listen to them. You got to figure out what that emotion is that they're dealing with, and then get into some fashion of being able to handle that emotion. Okay? It's not about just selling cars. Actually, as I've mentioned many times, the reasons why people buy a car is you, and you. It's not the vehicle. It's not the money, right? Getting a good deal, you tell a couple of people. You go ahead and you have a great time, you tell the world. So EQ is kind of a funny thing, right? It's something that we're never really taught. It's something that we never really talk about. And it's one of the most important things for us to go ahead and learn. And so, again, My email's down below. Feel free to hit me up. But thing is that EQ directly boosts sales by a margin of 351%. Somebody that with low EQ versus high EQ, 351% gap in their closing ability. I mean, that's absolutely insane. It also increases satisfaction because you're connecting with the individual on the other side of the table. And then when it comes down to retention, well, first off, your employee is going to be far happier. And if your employee's happier, your sales consultant's happier, then your customers by proxy are going to be happier as well. And that is going to keep you around longer at the store. Again, this is not about the store catering to you as a consultant. It is about you investing in the fact that you want to be happy. You are going to go ahead and turn that page. Because if you got to go ahead and deal with the everyday stuff that gives us a lot of stress, look at it. Actually look at it for what it is and label it something that is actually dictating the problem. And you're going to find out pretty quickly, it's not anything that really matters. Because as soon as you connect with it, it's just like there's nothing there. It's just money. That's is what it is. I haven't earned it yet. And so you earn it by going out and connecting. And then also, emotionally intelligent people or salespeople excel in both immediate and long-term sales scenarios. Every single time. Again, have I mentioned the 351%? The massive gap when it comes down to this is, again, simply the fact that you have somebody pushing a product and then somebody learning to sell a product, right? You're learning the customer and then you're selling the product the way the customer wants to actually buy it from you, right? Also, EQ is the competitive edge that your dealership needs. If you are the one on the showroom floor as a sales consultant and you're tapping in with the customer, I guarantee you your closing ratio is going to go up. I guarantee you will have more marks on the board. And once you have figured out how to tap into it every single time and you make it a process, and that is your job to be that sales connector. Once you start to figure that out, and it's an established pattern, your sales are going to be unstoppable. And that's flat out honest truth. Look at the people that have all the positive surveys that sell a crap ton of vehicles. All of a sudden you go, well, how are they doing it? The reason is because their customers genuinely enjoy them because the sales consultants are willing to actually put forth the ability to connect with the other individual, right? Those people that are selling 10 cars a month on the board, those people, heck, anybody that is looking at the board that is all braggy about their numbers and that has no humility and they're not humble in any way whatsoever, those individuals, the cocky ones, if they've engaged some of this stuff, all of a sudden you'd have a rock star in your showroom floor. But for those of us that aren't that cocky individual, those of us that are the normie selling cars, and that's just fine. This is going to be your secret. This is going to be the Swiss Army knife that you pull out when times are tough. Or it's going to be the Swiss Army knife that you go ahead and you sharpen every single day and you put it to use. Because that competitive edge is something that you need. And that competitive edge is something that is very easy to go ahead and create. And it's just about you investing in the fact that other people are in one way or another. And as soon as you figure that out, all their cards are on the table. Thank you for tuning in to AutoKnerd this week. I know this topic was a little bit different than most, but here's the deal. We can go ahead and do things the same way that we've always had and deal with the same results that we always get. Or we can learn the skills by which humans actually operate. So until next week, when Mirror Mastering Customer Validation in Car Sales comes out, hit that subscribe button, go through some of those past episodes, maybe go ahead and pick up a couple extra skills along the way. But please, if you can, do me a favor. Share this with somebody that may be needing it because, well, car sales is hard enough as it is. And if we can all learn to be a little bit happier by acquiring the right skills, all of a sudden, we have a more peaceful sales floor. All right, so until next time, keep that EQ high and those sales even higher and watch them skyrocket as you hone this ability. AutoKnerd out. See you next Thursday.